Hey, what's up, Karate Kid fans, Cobra Kai fans? Happy New Year! And what a New Year's present this was. We got Cobra Kai season 3 on New Year's Day, and which is a week early. And man, what a season it was. I'm gonna start off with my no spoilers review. In fact, I actually wasn't even planning on doing one of these videos, but I had a couple of people ask me to, what my thoughts were. So I'm like, okay, I'll do a video. So this is kind of a very um impromptu video. It's not scripted. I have some notes here, but I do apologize in advance if I ramble a bit. I wasn't planning to do one of these videos. But anyways, I'm going to lead off with just my no spoiler e review. So no spoilers in this first section, and then I'll get into spoilers later on because this is a very difficult show to talk about without spoilers at all. And so this will probably be pretty brief, but my initial review is I love this show. I thought this season was fantastic. It was different than the other 2 seasons, and for good reason. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities between the 3 seasons. The writing's, similar. It's on par. It's excellent, but, I really thoroughly enjoyed this season, and I think the writers did a fantastic job. Um, right out the get go, one of the things I liked about this is that it actually addresses the issues, and there weren't very many issues I had, but a couple of the issues I had with season 2, and they get right into that, and I really enjoyed that because it's a little more realistic if you do something like that. Um, there were definitely, I mean, it wasn't a perfect season by any means. There were a couple of things I did have some issues with, but they were very minor in the grand scheme of things. And it just kind of falls in line with Cobra Kai in general. So very minor issues. Again, they sprinkled on the references. There's a gazillion references out there. In fact, I started making a few notes, and I'm like, I'm not even going to keep up with them. I tried doing one of those videos, and it was just boom, 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 boom reference. And you know what? Maybe I'll do something like that again. But there are so many in here, and it is such fan service. I absolutely love it. Not just the dialogue, but they also still throw in the music and the score. And once again, I was really surprised this season that they went back to the archived footage again and showed us a few shots from, the Karate Kid films, that were not used in the actual films, but, different angles, different footage that they had. And that's always interesting. I really like that stuff. As a filmmaker, and a fan, I just eat that up. So that's so awesome that they can do that and have the budget to do that. That's really cool. I was really happy that we got more backstory on characters that haven't really been flushed out, haven't been rounded out. So there's definitely a couple characters I can think of. One in particular that we get a lot of backstory to, and that's important to me, especially in a series like this where you're kind of rounding out characters, you're making them 3 dimensional, and once again, they do a really good job with that here. As you guys have seen in the trailers, I don't think this is by any means a spoiler, but in the teasers and the trailers for the season 3, um, Chosen and Kamiko make a return, and I thought they did a tremendous job of reintroducing those characters and bringing them back. And it wasn't just for the sake of, hey, we've got these actors, let's throw them on the screen. It actually propelled the story, and it did it very intelligently, very well. I was very happy with that. It was really good to see both those actors come back, and they did an awesome job. I really enjoyed that exchange. I wish they had been in more episodes, honestly. But yeah, Chosen and Kamiko were great in this, and there were a few surprises thrown in there. So it was very pleasant to see those two come back. But and on that note, there are some other cameos that we get, some guest stars that I think everyone's going to really enjoy. I know I did. And again, they weren't just thrown in there. I always appreciate that they have the writers have a use for these characters to propel the story forward, and that's very important to me. Even though I'm dying to see all these characters come back, it's just it is such a treat. As a huge Karate Kid fan, it's like getting a bucket of cookies. So So I was really excited about those. We get some more cameos, and finally we get some character development that's really been teased in these previous two seasons, and I think a lot of fans probably have an idea of what I'm talking about. But one thing I've learned about this is that the writers have a really good sense of how long they're going to dangle that carrot in front of us as fans before they finally give it to us. And they've been doing that for these last couple seasons, where it's just like when you think things are going to go one way, and then they yank the rug from underneath you, and it drives you crazy. I know it's really bugged me, but they know exactly when to pay that off. So I think if you guys haven't seen this season yet, I think you're really going to enjoy it for those reasons. The writers are very clever. They're not stupid, and they don't take the audience for being fools either. I think they have a really good balancing act, and they know when to pay things off. So I think you're really going to enjoy season three in that regard. Um, the tease for season four is very, very interesting. It wasn't really, I mean, it wasn't what I expected. Um, like the other two season teases have been fairly similar in some regards, where there's a cliffhanger. They may tease a character making a return, but I was kind of surprised I had to look at the actual running time, the clock, and realize that wow, this is the end of the episode, because I was actually expecting another act beyond that, but that's a tease, I guess, for season four, which is interesting, and I'm really, really looking forward to now. I do need to go back and watch this season again, because I know there were some subtle things that I probably didn't pick up on. But anyways, that is my spoilerly. How do you say that? That is my review without spoilers for season three of Cobra Kai, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great season, and what a tough act to follow after the first two. So kudos to the writers. I hope that they continue this for at least another two seasons. I thought I read somewhere that they're planning at least a 5 season series, but I may have read that wrong or remembered that incorrectly. But anyhow, let's get into spoilers. This is going to be my big spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the season, stop this video, go watch it. Um, I don't want to ruin anything for any of you fans, because it is such a good season, such a good series. So that's my spoiler warning. Let's leap right on into it. I've got some notes here that I'm going to go over. Um, I was just kind of jotting things down when I was watching. In fact, one of the consistencies, anytime that I laugh out loud by myself, that deserves recognition. So a lot of these are laugh out loud moments. So I might just start going episode by episode and just kind of talking a little bit about the highlights. But let's just kind of get into just the premise of this season. And so we open up, and basically things are kind of in turmoil. Everyone's shooken up with the big school fight from the finale of season two, and rightfully so. Um, Miyagi Do is shut down, and Crease is still running Cobra Kai on high, he's really, really pushing to get the strongest students, the ones that um, are the most evil, basically. So that's kind of, and Miguel is in the hospital still. He's still in a coma. He hasn't woken up yet. And so things are really all over the place. But what I really like about this season is so the issue I had with season two was mostly with the school fight. And I'm at, where's security? Why is no one intervening? How are you letting all these, because when I went to high school, that fight never would have happened. It would have been shut down so quick, so ridiculously quick. Um, so I had a couple practical issues with that, even though, this is Cobra Kai, like you can't take it too seriously. But they address these issues right off the bat with a PTA meeting, and how clever is that? So everyone's in the audience, and they're asking the same questions I'm asking. Why didn't anyone intervene? Where's the teachers? Where's the security? And so many funny things happen in this scene. Daniel's talking about how he was bullied, and someone in the crowd yells out, "Bullshit! I heard you were the bully." And oh my god, what a meta nod, what a throwback that is to those fan videos about how Daniel was the real bully and Johnny was the hero of Karate Kid. I couldn't, that was so clever. Some other real fun references I got a kick out of was that Crease has a new cutout of him, a cardboard cutout. I think Daniel goes in there and what the hell? Um, things like that. Johnny punching through the car window. Crease throwing Miyagi's philosophies back in Daniel's face. No such thing as a bad student. All that stuff. Wow, what well written and funny use of all those quotes and dialogue. Um, I even like the that exchange between Kreese and Daniel now is it just tickles me. I like when Kreese is using the term "little bastard" to refer to Miyagi, just like he did in Karate Kid One, and then Daniel just like turns that around and says, "Well, that little bastard kicked your ass more than once." So fan service, such great fan service. Um, and then they even had a little tribute at the end to Rob Garrison, who played Tommy. If you guys recall, that actor passed away in season two. So I like that they had a little tribute to him. But episode two, we start getting some backstory to Crease, and I thought was one of the best things they did throughout the whole series, sprinkling on these little vignettes of Crease and his backstory with Vietnam with the army and how he got to be the way he is. I think there's still more that they could do, but I like just them going back and showing us why this guy is so much the way he is. So yeah, I get evil but dark and just rough around the edges, and you get a good sense of that throughout all those little vignettes, and a lot of times they did that at the very beginning of the episode, but I thought that was a great way to do it. You don't have to show it all in one episode. You can just kind of sprinkle it here and there, and I do think that there's room for more of that. We also get some backstory to Tori, and I know it was kind of suggested a little bit in season two, but not very much. And so we see a little bit of her. I think they could definitely dive more into her character because we only see really a scene of her caring for her sick mom. I think it's her brothers with her. There's a little boy, and she's trying to provide for all of them, pay the rent, and so she's picking up all these extra shifts, working part time. Um, and so she does have a story there. I think that they could actually um, elaborate on a bit. So we get a little bit of that, and that's all of these backstories are really important, especially when you have the time in a whole series like this, a whole season. To develop a character, because that's one of the best things I think about this series is that you're taking a one-dimensional, maybe a two-dimensional character, and you're rounding them off and making them a three-dimensional character, something that's more gray, not black and white. Um, Episode three, I was excited to see that Bobby Brown returns, and I believe he's a reverend. He keeps saying he's not a priest, even though Johnny keeps poking fun at that. That I think is hilarious. Um, we see the Cobra Kai now they're running their own dirt bikes, very much what's familiar to all of us with the original Karate Kid. And of course, they attack one of the Miyagi Do students on a bicycle. So right out of Karate Kid 1. I love that stuff. Um, Episode 4, I thought was very, very clever. So the whole story with how Daniel's dealership is kind of going down the tubes. His car dealership is having rough times, and the only possibility to save it in his mind is to travel to Japan and speak to what's the name of the company? It's not Toyota, but sounds like that, Doyona or something like that. It sounds very, very similar to Toyota. I don't think that was a coincidence, but um, anyways, he on his trip to Japan, he's feeling kind of down, and he decides, well, while he's out in Japan, why doesn't he visit Okinawa? And I what a smart way to get him to Okinawa, to get him to Chosen, to get him to Kamiko. very, very practical. It wasn't just like, I'm just feeling like I'm gonna take a trip to, Okinawa, which they could have done. But during his trip, you hear the Karate Kid 2 score playing, which I thought was great. If I recall, it's the music from right after Mr. Miyagi's father passes away. And so it's very heartfelt, and he's remembering things as he goes. I love this whole montage of him traveling. I I got a kick out of when the taxi, he tells him, "Take me to Tommy Village," and taxi driver's like, "Oh, okay." It wasn't like in Karate Kid 2, and so you think, "Wow, okay, I guess Tommy Village is doing well." And then he brings him to a mall. So Tommy Village is now a mall, and I love that Daniel basically says, "This is not how I remember it," which, again, meta, fourth wall, a nice nod because it's a different location. Not only that it's a mall now, but they're physically shooting in a different location. They're actually in Okinawa versus Hawaii. So I thought that was just a great, double nod to the audience. Um, I like the story that Sato was behind it, but it wasn't for any like bad intentions. It was just that the village was failing. It was very run down, and so he just adapted the economy, and everyone seems to be very very happy. So there's keeping that character in check. I really like that that they're true to Sato, and I had no reason to doubt it because they've done awesome with this season. We get some soccer fighting, which obviously another reference there with between the two dojos. And at this point, it's interesting because the Cobra Kai and Miyagi Do students, the rival dojos, to me, they're no longer rival dojos. These are like flat out gangs, especially later in this season. I feel like it's straight up gangs. We're not talking about dojo rivalry anymore. Um, the conversation with Kamiko, between Daniel and Kamiko, I thought was absolutely great. They haven't lost a beat, those two actors together. Just bread and butter. Um, I like that she refers to herself as free agent, and it kind of really mirrors the whole Mr. Miyagi and Yuki when in Karate Kid 2, she says that she never married. So there's kind of that chemistry, that same kind of storyline. And I like that she does mention that there are a lot of people that have tried to put a ring on her finger, but none of them had fought for their life, put their life on the line to save hers. Um, oh, and the last laugh out loud moment for me was when they're at they go to the little lounge, the little bar for a drink, and you see you see the ice being lined up just like in Cryga 2, with the ice breaking scene, and the bartender just chops a piece off to put into a glass. And so it's kind of like the Karate Kid 1 when Daniel does his, little, and you think that he's going to do the Miyagi thing, and it's like, nope, medic. So I like that stuff, that the laugh out loud stuff. There was a lot of it in here. I was surprised. All right, moving along. Episode 5. This one, was a big episode for me. I have a lot of notes here. There was just so much going on, and this is when we first get to see Chosen. The episode opens with a recap of Karate Kid Part 2 with the fight, and here's where I was talking about with the additional footage. They show a couple of different angles, different shots, and right after Mr. Miyagi says, Daniel, this isn't tournament, this is for real. In the movie, Daniel has a look on his face, a serious and frightened look, and then he starts crossing the bridge. But in the footage that they used, they had a take that where Daniel actually responds to that. Miyagi says, "This is for real," and he says, "I know." So I thought that was cool. I mean, this what a clever way to bring in like alternate takes or deleted scenes like that. I just eat that stuff up. I love that stuff. Um, so that was cool. Uh, I like that Crease is now trying to basically turn Robbie to the dark side, who feels like he's being shunned, and it very much feels a little bit like the Anakin Skywalker thing, where he's a good person, but one thing leads to another, and now he's down this dark road again. But I like when Crease tells Robbie about Johnny's first All Valley tournament and fighting Vidal in the tournament, who we all know was in Karate Kid 1. The actor, the guy that Johnny fights in the semifinals, and so I like that he kind of brought that back and told a story that we hadn't heard. Um, I love the so going back to Chosen. So like unexpectedly, Kumiko, we learn, calls up Chosen to come meet them at this bar. Like, and keep in mind that this is the guy that always got in the way, insulted her, but not only that, put a knife to her throat, and now has apparently changed so much that Kamiko is just happy to call this guy up and have him come out. Like, wow, like what a change that must have been. So they're all sitting at this table, another laugh out loud moment, and no one's saying a word. It's the most like awkward scene ever where they're just sitting there. Chosen's just kind of glaring at Daniel, and it's just the funniest awkward tension. In fact, he comes up at one point and um, he's got Daniel's drink. He gets him his drink and he slams the glass right in front of him. And it's just a complete throwback to when he has that beer bottle at the club. But now apparently he doesn't drink. He tells Daniel, "I don't drink." Um, and so there's this all of this tension and going on throughout the whole episode. He kind of gives Daniel a little bit of a tour. They talk a little bit of karate stuff, and then he brings him to his dojo where they get into a very serious sparring session. And Chosen basically gets Daniel in the same position, has him on the ropes, and has his head and is about to do the final blow, just like in Karate Kid 2, and instead does the nose honk, and he loses. He just is laughing all over the place, and you realize that all of this buildup was just so that he could get back at Daniel for honking his nose. I mean, wow, what an unexpected treat. And mind you, never once throughout this whole entire episode, I didn't catch it at least, does he use the word coward. Not once. I couldn't believe it. I thought at least the writers would throw that in there as it may be out of context, just as something funny, a little nod. But not once does Chosen say coward, and that blew my mind. But we learned that we learned a lot about Miyagi in this episode. He there's all these scrolls that Miyagi-Do goes way up the ancestry line, and there's all these artifacts. Chosen says to Daniel that when Sato passed, he gave Chosen all of the karate, the Miyagi-Do artifacts, including a lot of these scrolls, and Daniel knew nothing about this. So he's learning some more stuff, but he learns along this way that in fact it's really cool. The first scroll he looks at is kind of the foundation for the crane technique. And then later on, Chosen reveals to him that another one involves pressure points, and that's the technique that Chosen used on Daniel to to kind of make all of his limbs go numb and put him in that lethal position. Um, so so that is really clever. It was really interesting, and Chosen teaches Daniel some of these techniques, and even at the end, he gives he gives Daniel one of the scrolls, and he says, "You keep for your collection." A nice, obvious nod to Karate Kid 2 with the shirt, "Keep for your collection." Um, and there's even some more of that going on throughout here. But what a great exchange between those two. You learn, Daniel learns and how much Chosen's evolved and changed and become a better person. And it's a good lesson for him that really pays off later on about how your rivals don't have to remain that way. People can, people do change, and it what a great exchange. I absolutely love every moment that those two are on screen together. Um, Aside from that, what the other stuff going on, Miguel is slowly, he wakes up, he's recovering. Um, Johnny's, set on trying to get his legs to work again. And one of the things that really made me laugh again, he's got this list of possible fixes for Miguel's leg. And like the number one is like electric shock, then it's like hypnosis, Tony Robbins, and then at the bottom it's LSD and like totally Johnny tactics, right? Um another throwback line I like that has a good funny payoff is when the Cobra Kai kids are they at golf and stuff, I think? They're at some laser tag place, and the one kid says he's got his backpacking, "All right, brew time, man. Who's for a warm one?" And 'cause which is, right out of Karate Kid Part 1 when they're on their dirt bikes. And Hawk just turns, he's like, who the hell wants a warm beer? And it's like it's what everyone's thinking. I love that the writers will do that because it's so true. Like I remember thinking that as a kid, who wants a warm beverage of anything, really? So that was pretty funny. I thought, oh man, what a clever way to bring oh, I forgot the character's name. The girl that Daniel rescues in Karate Kid Part 2 from way up on the bell tower when the big storm hits, and he rescues her, and she comes back. Kamiko introduces Daniel to her, and guess what? It turns out that she is, was it senior executive vice president of sales or something like that for uh, Doyona, or I think that's how you pronounce it, for the car company that basically is do or die for Daniel's business, their car dealership. And so what poetry, because Daniel saved her life, and so she's in essence saving his car dealership, his professional life. What a great way to bring her in, but also what great writing. So I thought that was really cool. We get Amanda LaRusso going into Crease's dojo, and this is after another Cobra Kai brawl that happened at the amusement park at golf and stuff at the laser tag place where um it's Cobra Kai and Sam and the rest of Miyagi Do are there. Well, like five of them, and what's his name? Dimitri's arm gets broken, and so Amanda LaRusso goes to confront Crease, and whacks him in the face, but she refers to him as Rambo, and I thought, oh man, what a nod, because if you guys didn't know this, and I'm sure you do, that Martin Cove was in Rambo. He alongside Sylvester Stallone, so that was a great little wink at the audience. And then at the end of the episode, Allie Facebook friends Johnny, so kind of gets you going. Well, we're only episode 5 in, so is that gonna get anywhere? Whew, that was a lot to talk about it with episode 5. I'm just gonna, let's see here. Episode 6. Again, we get more Kreese backstory, and for the first time, we kind of get a sense of the origins of Cobra Kai. His was it his captain or his sergeant? I forget what his actual rank is, but he's putting together kind of an elite little task force of a few hardcore army guys, and he tells Kreese that they're also going to learn some hand to hand combat, and that he's going to teach him Tang Soo Do, which he learned in Korea from Kim Jong Un, which um, I don't know if you got. Well, I'm sure you do, but that's the name of the same guy that Terry Silver references in Karate Kid Part 3 when he puts on his facade to introduce himself to Mr. Miyagi and Daniel. So I like that they even brought in the same sensei that they reference in Karate Kid Part 3. Um, Allie and Johnny are starting to Facebook message, so things are moving along. In fact, we see Johnny visits her Facebook page. We see pictures of Elizabeth Shue of Allie, and at this point, I'm thinking where she's got to be popping in at some point because some of these pictures clearly are recent pictures, and they're not all archival pictures like we've seen before. Um, we get some more, quite a few other dialogue references, but you can see where Crease is getting some of his philosophies. His sergeant tells him, "You lose concentration in the battlefield, and you're dead meat." Then we get the origin for no mercy. Um, so you can kind of see the wheels and the clay taking its mold with Crease at this point. It's slow but sure. Um, Laugh out loud moment when Miguel is helping Johnny with his Facebook profile. So many things to laugh about during that. It reminds me of him with the internet in season 2 of Cobra Kai. Um, I like that we see Hawk's tattoo being repurposed, so now it's a Grim Reaper instead of just the moon. I thought that was pretty clever. And then one more reference we get when Kreese is on the phone and he says it's open season on them and you. So I just eat that stuff up. I'm sure there's 100 other ones that I just didn't write down, but I do like that stuff. So episode 7. Um, the park scene where Johnny's looking for dojo space. Oh my god, another laugh out moment. It starts out at this high prestigious gym where they have all these fancy amenities, including like a juice bar. And he just wants to give him a handshake. Sure, I'll take it. No, don't look at my credit. Don't look at it. And then the next scene, he because obviously he can't afford that place. The next scene is just a real shithole and the guy wants 3 grand a month and finally we see him and he's outside at a park and he's talking to this guy and he's like, you mean I can just train out here? Like it's blowing his mind that he doesn't have to pay anything for this space, uh this public park. And the guy's like, no man, it's a public park. Now can I go back to my family? So it's just some Joe Schmo, some guy with his family that he's talking to as if he owns the place. It's just hilarious. um the so here's one of my little gripes. We see so there's this, Dimitri gets bullied in the cafeteria. He's got his cast for his broken arm, and oh my god, I can't think of the character's name, and you guys will, I'm sure, leave a comment. But uh, the bully from that was Hawk's bully who joins Cobra Kai. He draws a big dick on his cast and holds it up, and everyone's laughing at Dimitri. And I'm wondering because at the beginning of this season, we see the school take on a whole new level of security. Their backpacks, everything's getting checked as they come through, which I would expect. And I'm glad that they did that. But they're really emphasizing that there's a no tolerance for any of this stuff now, and everyone's there's increased security. They're going to be watching. And so for something like this to happen, where there's still bullying and stuff going on in the cafeteria that everyone sees, and what happened to this security? So it feels a little inconsistent to me. And I know it's a minor little you know nitpick, but it is there, like, because there are times where it's like Miyagi Do is being watched. Any little thing that they do, they're being condemned for. The Cobra Kai is getting away with everything, and I know there's something to be said because they're trying to practice to be smart fighters. This time around, that's what Crease is preaching to them. But come on, in an entire cafeteria, there's no adult around to see this and intervene. So I thought that was a little bit of an inconsistency, but anyways, that's a minor thing. Um, when Johnny, because to that regard, Johnny does come into the school to try to recruit the old Cobra Kai kids back, and he makes a comment like, hey, I went to this school. I know all the secret entrances. So excuse me, you could make an argument about that. But I love that he slaps as after his speech with all the old students, he slaps the books out of the little, I don't know, the young students' hands, and he just says, "Sorry, kid, old habit." And I thought that's totally Johnny. We get a Karate Kid 3 reference finally where Daniel is talking to his daughter about how, once he almost lost a fear, and we get to see some more footage from Karate Kid Part 3 with Mike Barnes. And so that anytime that they show something like that, they show a flashback. Because up till this point, it's only been mentioned. Like anything with Karate Kid 3 has really only been referenced. We haven't seen a lot in terms of actual flashback footage. And so to see that kind of to me kind of tease it up like, okay, we could see possibly Mike Barnes or at least some of the Karate Kid 3 cast in the near future. And so that was exciting to see that. And it was a good story to teach Sam because with her problem right now of freezing in fear. And then of course Johnny's new name for the dojo, Eagle Fang. Like, how great is that? And Sensei, there's no eagles don't have fangs. Quiet. Yeah, it's just I absolutely love that. Like, well, how perfect, because they can't be Cobra Kai. So what's even more badass than that? Well, not just an eagle, but an eagle with fangs. So I have to say the shirts look pretty damn badass. Okay, so episode 8. I really like how this episode opens up. So there's mashup, there's editing of all three dojos. So you've got Crease's Cobra Kai, you've got Johnny's Eagle Fang, and then you got Miyagi Do. And as they're each of the senseis are preaching their philosophies, it gets cut off and that gets filled in with the next line from the next sensei. And so it's very clever editing. I love how they mash it all up like that, and you see the difference between all three of them and how different they really are. Very, very well done editing. I appreciate that. um and one of my laugh out loud lines, when Johnny's training with his students, and okay, get some water, but not from the fountain. I saw some meth head wipe his ass in it. um yeah, there's so much humor with Johnny and his students. I absolutely love it. And when they go to so All Valley decides the community decides to cancel the tournament, the All Valley tournament, and for one reason or another, all three dojos object to that. They want this tournament to go on, and uh, so I like that they all go to this hearing and they all put on their spiel. And at one point, the head of the committee tells them, "Sit down, have a seat." What do they do? All three of them sit right next to each other. It is again one of those awkward, funny moments that I just had to laugh out loud to. Great writing, great, a perfect composition for the framing. Just absolutely hilarious. Um, and of course, all three of those guys, Johnny, Crease, Daniel, they not only do they want this tournament for their own reasons, but they've decided that that's how they're going to settle their dispute, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But that's what's also kind of riding on the line here. Um, I really enjoyed that Johnny finally gets back together with Carmen, with Miguel's mom. In fact, they have a really funny um, sex, well, pre-sex scene where they're making out hardcore in Johnny's apartment, and um, they collide with a wall, and Johnny's TV just drops and breaks right off the wall. But I really do, I really am glad that they're doing at this point that they're back together because they fit. They're a great match, especially where Johnny's kind of a surrogate father to Miguel. It makes sense, but that's not all. So episode 9 rolls around, and ta-da! Guess what? Elizabeth Shue's back. We got Allie. Finally, all the fans, and now I'm thinking, how is this gonna work? So Allie comes back, and it actually starts out with her mom, um, you don't realize it's her mom, and then we get the reveal that, oh, it's Allie's mom, and here's Allie, and it's Christmas time, and Allie is gonna be returning home to her hometown, to All Val, to the Valley, and so she connects with Johnny. They decide um, to get a lunch, which is a really funny lunch. Um, I like that they're recalling the past a bit, another throwback, another nostalgia lane type thing where, even the whole, oh, that's right, you did mess up my radio, and they're kind of recalling the past. And I think that's very, to a large degree, that's very realistic because I've got my 20th high school reunion coming up this next year. We'll see, with the pandemic. But when I went for my 10-year high school reunion, I people acted that way too. I mean, like there were so many conversations where it's like, "Oh, good to see you. I remember you were a real dick in high school, or you're a real, yeah, I was a real asshole." There that's very realistic. And yeah, Johnny was a prick to Allie in some regards, but that's back in high school, and so people change. So at first you're like, well, how can these two be buddy buddy? But I think it's actually very realistically done and written. So I did enjoy their lunch together. Um, Let me see here. I'm just looking at a couple notes. Oh, I love the scene where Daniel's giving Miguel a shot finally because he knows, Sam likes him, and he's okay, he's gonna give him a chance here. And so they sit down in his old, was it the 46 Ford, and or 47, I can't remember, and they're sitting in Daniel's car in the big yellow convertible and talking just in general ab about, Johnny and Daniel and their different perspectives on past events. And so Miguel's telling them from Johnny's perspective, and Daniel's saying, "Wait, no, it didn't happen that way. It actually happened this way." And so you're seeing, kind of the light bulb go on. Miguel, he's like, well, he doesn't know exactly what to believe, but it's a great exchange. It's a great conversation. I really like that they're finally kind of making amends, and Daniel's kind of seeing that, okay, this kid isn't so bad, and maybe Johnny's not so bad. So you kind of see the gears are turning. Um there's the golf and stuff montage again, but this time the same song, Feel the Night, is being played. In fact, it's the same rendition that they used in a movie that has, it's actually a duet with a female vocal artist, not just Baxter. I forgot his name, but because the original version of Feel the Night, at least on my Karate Kid soundtrack, is just the male vocalist. But with the Karate Kid 1 montage scene, with that version of Feel the Night, there's a female vocalist that does kind of a duet, and they use that same version in this. Um, but the spin on this is that it's not Daniel and Allie, it's Johnny and Allie. And they're starting out playing air hockey, they're going through the whole thing. And now I'm thinking, first off, what a great twist. What a great way to do this montage scene and put a different spin on it. But now I'm thinking, uh-oh, like how is this going to pan out? Because now we learn that Allie is separated, going through a divorce, and so she's more or less back on the market, and they've got some chemistry going, her and Johnny do. But yet, Johnny is just in the middle of heating things up with Miguel's mom, with Carmen. So I'm like, oh no, this is gonna come bite him in the face. Please don't, not one of those, like one of those mistaken facts type situations where now Carmen sees Johnny with Allie and gets the wrong idea, or Johnny just screws things up. We've seen enough of that. So I'm just like, please don't do that. Um, and then let's see here. Oh, and then the episode ends with them at Encino Oaks Country Club, just like the same country club from Karate Kid 1. And they tee up the last episode with, again, the just what I talked about, like, the seeing things out of context. So Johnny comes into the country club and Allie's with Daniel. Again, a spin uh on Karate Kid 1, where Daniel comes to the country club and sees Allie with Johnny and thinks that they're together. We even get a funny reference about the spaghetti. I like that, in the next episode. And so we should just leap into that because that's where this one uh, plays up. So at this point, leading into the finale, I'm like, oh no, they have to. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. How are they going to do this? All these things are running through my head, and I think the runtime of the last episode is like 35 or 40 minutes. So they have a lot to cover. So we finally get the last backstory to Crease, at least for the season. And um, oh, and by the way, in this backstory, this whole entire time, because it's a flashback to Vietnam, I'm thinking, okay, where are we going to see Crease save Terry Silver's life? Or where are we going to see Terry Silver? Or because in Karate Kid 3, anytime you go back to Vietnam, I think as any fan, you're thinking Terry Silver because they talk about how Crease saved, Silver's butt, uh, you know, too many times to count. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, first off, which one can I pick out? Which one is Terry Silver if he is on screen? And when are they going to say his name so that we as an audience know and all this stuff? And in the last backstory, we finally get a sense of that because Crease, it turns out that in one of their covert ops missions, Crease is supposed to hit this detonator and blow up this home, this building, and but one of their team is in there, and so he hesitates because he doesn't want to blow away uh his buddy, his war buddy, his fellow soldier, and um, but by doing so, that gets them all captured, and they end up all in like a cell, and the enemies, the Vietnamese are making them fight on on this little bridge that's above this big pit. Anyways, at one point, um, we hear, because they're taking 2 members out of their cell, pitting them up against each other. Whoever wins, uh, gets to go back into the cell, stays alive, basically, and the other guy dies because he falls into this pit, which we find out later is not just a massively deep pit, but there's a ton of snakes in here too. Like just it's basically like Indiana Jones. There's every type of snake you can think of down in this pit. Um, but going back to the whole Terry Silver thing, at one point one of the enemy comes in to grab 2 more soldiers, American soldiers, and he picks this one guy that up until this point, no, people have just referred to, I believe, as Twig because he's got these real skinny arms that are like tree branches, and they pick Crease's sergeant or captain, and Twig is just scared out of his mind. Please, no, 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 no. So Crease says, "I'll fight. I'll do it." And in the so when it's all said and done, when it's all over, Kreese ends up winning. He beats his captain, throws his philosophies back, the no mercy, back in his face, and so now Kreese is kind of full blown, like you can see that he's the dark side now. But he gets back, and Twig is like, "I owe you, man. I owe you for the rest. Anything you ever need, I'll be there for your entire life." And he keeps thanking him. By this point, you're like, "That's Terry Silver." But what's funny is that there's another guy, the other one of the other soldiers that Crease's buddies with. had a complete in fact, they referred to him as ponytail, and so so it's like right on the nose, you're thinking, "That's Terry Silver. It's gotta be because it's like the same hair and he's this tall, lanky guy, and but no, they completely just, spin it on you, and it's just a little fake out. So clearly that's Terry Silver. In fact, I had to go back, and when they're first captured, um, Twig, aka Terry Silver, is he keeps saying it's like, "Oh, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's because of me that we're all captured." And the captain, the sergeant or captain, says, I believe he says, "Shut up, Silver." And I had to go back because I'm like, did he actually say that? And I believe so. So um even though we never hear the word Terry, or we never really hear, that's the only time we hear Silver being thrown out. I do like that they don't necessarily uh, do everything right in your face. It isn't until that last scene that you can really confirm, oh, that's Terry Silver. So it's a good setup. It's a good pitch, because now you're wondering, man, when are we going to see Terry Silver? Hopefully, or are we going to see a little cameo at the end of this episode? Because this is the last episode. Um, I talked about this briefly, but going back to the country club scene, Johnny kind of points fun at the whole spaghetti thing. I'm wearing a white jacket. Do you think I want this all over me? Uh, and again, we get a great table scene with two couples. Last season we got it with Daniel, his wife, and we got it with Johnny and Carmen. And this time it's Allie and Johnny, and it's Daniel and his wife, and it is fantastic. Again, this reminds me a lot of the episode 9 last year, where you thought, man, these guys are just this has to be it. They're gonna patch things up. They're gonna become friends, or at least uh good acquaintances. They seem they're cordial to each other at least. Um and so that's what I was thinking here. I'm like, are we gonna get this pitch again? But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm still wondering. I'm like, oh no, because like, is Johnny gonna try to get things going with Allie, and then Carmen's gonna be like, what the hell? So that is always like in the back of my head. But I really like the fill in that Allie fills in the audience, us fans, with what actually happened in part two, that they broke up, and her perspective is just it's gold. I like that. I warned. I was telling you that those brakes were going to go out. You didn't tell Mr. Miyagi that I crashed the car, and how she never how her UCLA, Daniel refers to in Karate Kid 2 is like, oh, she fell in love with some football player from UCLA, um, but Allie makes it clear that no, there was never any romance. It was just a friend, and so Daniel had just misinterpreted the situation. Again, kind of, there's a little poetry here, message to be taken away from this. Um, and she refers to Daniel with an L. I like all that stuff. It's great. Um, and the funny thing about all this is that it takes Allie, of all people, it takes Allie to heal Daniel and Johnny's relationship. Finally, the hatchet is buried. And we've been teased this from season 1, and then again they bring it back in season 2 just to say no. And so, like, if they didn't do that this season, that would have been that wouldn't have been a nitpick. That would have been a big one for me, because you have to pay that off at some point, and these writers know exactly when to do it. So it was very gratifying to see that these two guys, for once, Johnny refers to Daniel as Daniel, not LaRusso, when they say Merry Christmas. So that was a huge payoff. I really appreciated that. But I thought it was very ironic that it took Allie to push these two in the right direction. It was great. Um, and thankfully, Johnny and Allie do not start a relationship. I know some fans maybe wanted to see that, but I really do feel like him and Carmen are made for each other. Um, but how that gets brought up is kind of interesting, that it's actually Amanda LaRusso, Daniel's wife, that tells Allie about Carmen. And so it makes me wonder, would Johnny have actually told her about Carmen, or what if he had just kind of played things off and seen where they went, and then chosen, if he had the choice, chose Allie over Carmen? I mean, it's hard to know, but they didn't let it get to that point. So um, and for a second, it took me a second to be like, well, how does Amanda know about Carmen? But then thinking about that dinner scene, it's because of that dinner scene from last season. It took me a bit because at first I'm like, wait a minute, how does she even know about Carmen? So so there is that. The big brawl at LaRusso's house. So Crease's Cobra Kai students now are so evil, so much like I was saying, they're like a gang now, to the point that they're breaking and entering. And I was like, whoa. I mean, I don't know if they I don't I have to go back and watch again, but I don't recall if like Daniel or someone said that, oh, their neighbors are gone or what. But if if their neighbors aren't out of town, like, who isn't going to hear windows breaking and all that commotion from all these kids in this huge brawl? Uh, Needless to say, I thought it was a little bit far fetched, not as far fetched as a school fight, but it was getting up there. Especially where I was thinking, there's this many kids in this house, all beating the hell out of each other. Um, and not one of them is tempted to pull out a phone and just call 911, call the police. Um, but it is Cobra Kai, so they do get away with some stuff, and I give it a pass because I'm just a huge fan. I did like too that while this big brawl is going on, they're playing. You can hear like an electric guitar instrumental version of "Comfort and Joy." Uh, that's pretty much perfect. Let's see here. Looking at my notes a little bit, some more. I did like that the end to with Allie leaving the show and her talking with Johnny and Daniel. You hear kind of the romantic little interlude as they're leaving from Karate Kid Part One. That little instrumental piano piece. I always like that. Anytime they find a good use of the original scores, again, it's just fan treats for me, fan service. Let's see. So, in during that whole brawl, we finally get to Sam and Tori and their big confrontation, which comes down to even using weapons. Tori seems to like weapons, but she breaks the the picture frame that has Miyagi's picture in there. A nice chosen nod to Karate Kid Part Two. Um, Hawk finally redeems himself. Hey, Hawk's redemption. He turns to the good side of the Force, and sees how effed up Cobra Kai has become. And so that was I didn't expect that, but that was good to see. You do see some hints of that, like when he breaks Dimitri's arm and a couple other things. I think it took Miguel to really push him, but it was good to see that. That was something I didn't entirely expect, but it was good to see. Um, and then so we get 2 teases, and I wasn't, expecting this, but throughout the whole episode and even in, episode 9, where they're at the hearing and for the All Valley tournament, and it's kinda settled that, um, after the big fight. I didn't even talk about the fight with Crease and, uh, Johnny and Daniel, um, but well, I should just talk about that. We finally get to see some more kick-ass, legit Johnny versus Crease, and then Daniel versus Crease. So they don't necessarily exactly team up together at the same time. It's not Johnny and Daniel versus Crease, but nonetheless, they're fighting on the same side. And they're fighting Crease, and that that's freaking awesome. I mean, what great fan service. That's something I think any Karate Kid fan has wanted to see, especially since Cobra Kai started. It was just it's like that monster movie mashup made in heaven, that sort of thing, where it's like I'm putting, Godzilla versus, Mothra, or um that was really cool. That was really good. But after the big brawl, after they basically take out Crease, and mind you, Johnny's Robbie is completely an Anakin at this point. He's defending Crease and doesn't want to have anything to do with either of them. And he even fights. He starts attacking Johnny, which is kind of funny because Johnny's he's not even attacking at all. And in that exchange, Robbie ends up slamming into like a locker and gets kind of knocked on briefly unconscious. And Johnny's like, "Ah, shit." But after Crease, Johnny and Daniel basically take down Crease and knock him through the front glass, and they basically decide that the the rules are that they're going to make a wager on the next tournament, and if they win, if Johnny and Daniel win, because now they have they have their dojos. If either of them beat Cobra Kai, Crease has to get up and leave town and dissolve Cobra Kai, be no more. Um, so they make a wager, and so we get a tease because I'm looking at the clock at this point. I'm like, oh shit, we also get a tournament in this. Like, there's only I feel like this episode's been going on for a while, and of course this is like there's like 2 minutes left. So I'm like, ah, they're teasing it. So we get a tease for next season. Next season there's got to be a big tournament, and a lot's riding on it. And then we get probably the biggest tease again for Terry Silver as Crease hops on the phone. He's looking at his old an old picture of him, ponytail and twig, aka Terry Silver. He gets on the phone, dials the number. We don't know what it is, and he says, "Hey, long time." There's no "Hey" is Mr. But I think we all know it's got to be Terry Silver. So I'm so excited for season 4. I really hope Ian Griffith comes back. I know that Josh Gad, does those YouTube reunions, and they just did. I'm sure all of you have seen that where they brought in um, all the casts, not just Cobra Kai, but season 1, season 2. It was huge, and that included Sean Cannon and Thomas Ian Griffith and Elizabeth Shue. And so I'm thinking about all these people watching this reunion. Granted, this has not necessarily anything directly to do with Cobra Kai in terms of what they'd be bringing on, but I'm thinking, okay, if they're able to get both those guys, Sean Cannon and Thomas Ian Griffith, to come on, and they had Elizabeth Shue, uh, who ended up making a cameo, obviously in this season. If they were able to bring those guys on, something's got to be in the works. Clearly, they're responsive to all this stuff. So I know everyone wants to see Thomas Ian Griffith come back as Terry Silver. Sean Cannon is awesome as Mike Barnes. Maybe they could develop his story too. I would like to see why he is the way he is. Um, there's so much room, and then if you think about it, they've kind of been going more or less in that order. So like, they bring on in season 1, they bring on Daniel's mother, like they bring on actors and the OG actors, from the original trilogy, but they've been bringing them on kind of in order. We got a lot of Karate Kid 1. Crease came back at the end of season 1, and then he was in through most of season 2. And then, this season we started getting some of the Karate Kid 2 cast. We got Kamiko and we got Chosen. So it seems logical that next season we would see some of the Karate Kid 3 cast come back. One can only hope, but man, they've really knocked it out of the park. Like, all this entire trilogy of seasons has been nothing but a home run, and I absolutely can't wait for season 4. But that's about all I've got. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, and believe me, I would love to. But why don't you guys post some comments? I would love to hear what you thought of season 3. Things that I didn't mention. I would love to hear. What were your favorite moments? What did you have anything to nitpick about? Like, it doesn't matter. I would just love to hear what your thoughts are on season 3. But yeah, that's all I got. I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for season 4. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys in the next video.